You're listening to VNN, and I'm your host, Aurora Light. And our special guest tonight, joining Dr. Whodini and I, is Lindsey Williams. And he's got quite a background, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, Aurora. He was invited to be a chaplain to the elite of the world, and that's primarily the energy elite, folks, for 3 years during the construction of the Trans-Alaskan oil pipeline. Because of his position as chaplain, he was offered executive status with Alaska Pipeline Service Company in an advisory capacity and sat in on their board meetings with the oil elite. So, Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Bill, it's so good to be with you and Aurora tonight. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of being here.
Well, thank you for coming on. We always enjoy your updating us on the situation, which, needless to say, is like we're sitting on a precipice here of insanity. Are we going to teeter to the left, the right? What does it look like, Lindsey?
Last time I was on your show, Aurora and Bill, I said that any time that anything that I felt was vital to your welfare, that the elite told me that I would contact you and try to let you know about it. Now, that's exactly what happened within the past week and a half. There's something so startling that I felt all of your listeners need to know about it, because if you know the issues, then you can do something about it. It's the person who doesn't know what's going on that is most likely to get hurt, have a very difficult time through all of this. But you have an audience out there who I'm quite sure is aware of what's going on. After all, you give them information that's very unusual week after week. So very briefly, since I'm sure I have some new friends out there in your audience tonight, let me just give a little background so you'll understand just briefly more why I can say some of the things I'm saying tonight. Aurora and Bill mentioned a moment ago that I was invited to be the chaplain to the elite of the world. And for 3 years' time, I lived with the people that you only hear about but never get to meet. That was about 37 years ago. Those people today are in their 70s and 80s. They have controlled the world for years. And let me assure you as positively as I can, there is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. If you ever doubted that, please don't doubt it again. If someone had asked me before my experience if I believed that there was such a group of people on the earth, I would have laughed at them. If someone had asked me after I lived with these people for 3 years, sat in on their board meetings, do you believe there's a group of people who dictate who the president is going to be, tell Congress what bills to pass, tell OPEC and the Arabs on any given day what they'll give them for a barrel of oil, and control the currencies of the world, I would have said, not only do I believe it, I sat and listened to them talk about it. Now, the reason that I'm able to say some of the things that I'm going to say tonight is because I still have access to some of those people. I made friends with them years ago intentionally. Even though we were as far removed from each other in thought patterns and activities as East is from West, yet I knew I wanted to keep in touch with these people. And I have. And over these years, they've told me things, sometimes a year in advance, sometimes a month in advance. Sometimes they'll say, Chaplain, this is going to happen this week. Never one time in 37 years has it ever failed to happen exactly like they said it was going to happen, because they plan it all behind closed doors. They know what's going to happen in Washington. They know what's going to happen to the currency. They know exactly, well, pretty much exactly. They haven't given me the date yet. But they know fairly well when there's going to be a financial collapse. And there is going to be, let me assure you. They're working toward it. But something happened. Now, I hope you have pencils and paper, please. I'm not going to just talk in generalities tonight. I'm going to give you facts and figures. You can go to the internet, prove them for yourself. You can go to one place and actually see something that was sent to me this week. And I hope you'll print it out, because it is vital to your dinner table and to the welfare of your family. And basically, I've given you a moment now to get your pencils and papers. So let me tell you basically what happened. I'm going to give you some dates so you can look back and remember these. On Wednesday, June the 19th. Now, if any of you are in the financial field, you will readily relate to what I'm saying here. And you'll go back then and put the pieces together, because the puzzle, you can really see the picture whenever you know what happened. Many of you remember that on Wednesday, June the 19th, Mr. Bernanke, chairman of the Federal Reserve, just about the time of the closing of the markets that evening, he made a statement, and the statement really wasn't, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. He hinted, that's right, he hinted that there might possibly be a drawing back of the Federal Reserve in printing funds as drastically as they have recently. Now, many of you know that the Federal Reserve, since about a year ago, has been pulling out of thin air nothingness. It's really, literally pulling out of thin air approximately $85 billion every month. No gold backing, no silver backing, no land, nothing.
That's right, Lindsey. We
Right.
caught that article. That caught our attention. Yeah.
And Mr. Bernanke, on that Wednesday afternoon, he hinted that there was a possibility that the Federal Reserve might, didn't say they were going to, but they might not print quite as much next month. That's all it took. That started it. And on Wednesday night, the markets went, they went berserk. They literally went wild. Now, those of you who might have been watching, and those of you who are in the financial world and watch this sometimes hour after hour, you realize that by Thursday morning, everything in the financial world was topsy-turvy. It was upside down. And everyone was wondering what was going to happen. Now, I had not heard from my elite friend for weeks. Sometimes a month will go by and I don't hear a word. There'll be other times that maybe once a week I'll hear something, or I can pick up the telephone if I wish and call them when I'd like, but I really don't enjoy talking with them. Sometimes I find out more than what I want to know. So I don't make it a point necessarily, but I had not heard anything for weeks. I wondered if he was on vacation or maybe what was happening. All of a sudden on Thursday morning, June the 20th. Now, please, jot these dates down and relate back to what happened on these days, and you'll be able to put this together very easily. On Thursday morning, June the 20th, I received 2 emails before breakfast. And I was amazed because I had not heard from him for so long. And when I read the emails, I was horrified. I don't know any other way to put it. Now, I want to tell you where you can go and read these 2 emails. They were personal, and they were personal from my insider friend to me, but I felt that they were such that I could post them so that you could read them. And please, jot down where you can go and get them. It won't cost you a penny. They're free of charge. They're right on the front page. All you have to do is go on the internet to lindseywilliams.net, LINDSEY, Williams.net, and posted right there, the first thing on the front page. You don't even have to click to get to it. You will find a copy of the 2 emails that was sent to me by my elite friend that morning. But when I read them, I was startled beyond words. But I wasn't quite sure I was understanding what I was reading. Try to think about this if you can. Here I was, let's go back just a ways. I was a pastor of a church for 12 years. Then I went to Alaska as a missionary. I was brought up in a wonderful Christian home, godly environment. My activities were at church most all my life, in a wonderful Christian environment like that, and all of a sudden, some years ago when I was asked and invited to be the chaplain to the leader of the world, I was thrown into the midst of the most questionable, the most dastardly, and some of the most occult people on the face of this earth. And I had a very difficult time understanding the thinking of these people. And even yet, sometimes, whenever they talk with me on the phone or preferably whenever they email me, I really don't understand. My background is in the ministry. I have a bachelor's degree in Bible, but I was not educated in finance. So when I got these two emails, I really wasn't quite sure. So I picked up the telephone, and I was hoping that my friend would answer the phone, and he did. Are you ready? We'll go through the first of the emails, and then I will give you some of the conversation that was related that Thursday morning. And whenever I do, you are going to have some timetables. You're going to have some supposed dates. You can look down the line and pretty much put this together. So tonight, I hope that I'm a great help to you. I'm not going to startle you. I'm merely going to tell you the facts. Now, let me begin with the first of those emails, that he was telling me what happened the night before, Wednesday night and Thursday morning. Here it is, quote, the 7-day repo rate, the benchmark rate for the funding between banks, surged. Now, after Mr. Bernanke made the statement that he did, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, literally the interest rate of the 7-day repo rate, the benchmark rate of funding between banks, it surged almost instantaneously. Now, let me try to explain this. On any given night, when you and I are sleeping, banks are very busy. They are doing billions and billions of dollars of money transfer amongst themselves. They aren't sleeping at all. While the average populace is, the banks are just as busy as ever. And they have something that is called the 7-day repo benchmark rate for funding between banks. Now, let me try to explain. Let's say that Bank of America tomorrow knows that they have some loans that are going to be made and there's some people they don't have to deal with, and they need $1 billion. They might overnight contact Wells Fargo or maybe some bank in Europe, and they say, we'd like to borrow from you short term, just probably the next 24 hours, we'd like to borrow $1 billion from you. And this goes on all night. I mean, it goes on between banks on a regular basis. It's nothing unusual at all. And there is a rate of interest in which banks do business with each other. It's called the 7-day repo rate, benchmark rate of funding between banks, and it has remained at, please write this down now, it has remained at approximately 3.3% on a regular basis. They can count on it day after day after day. They know it's going to cost them that much to do business, and, of course, they charge their customers so that they don't lose money when they borrow amongst banks. Well, that day after Mr. Bernanke made his statement, that 3.30% surged. It surged to the point that by Thursday morning, it was 8.26. And everybody watched it all day Thursday. And I was watching it, too, especially after I talked with my insider friend. And then on Thursday night, between Thursday night and Friday, that 3.3% rate surged to 12.33%. Do you realize that on Thursday night, June the 20th, there was practically no business between banks? No, they couldn't. It was an impossibility. You can't fluctuate your borrowing rate between banks that much and do business. It basically shut down banking between Thursday night and Friday. And it scared some people to death. I was very concerned whenever I heard what I did the following morning. So let me try to relate some of that conversation before I go any further in this particular email and also the other email. First of all, Mr. Bernanke did not have a slip of the tongue on Wednesday night. It was planned. Now, when I got on the phone that next morning, I realized that every bit of this was done intentionally. This was what is better known as a test run. I hope you're catching this. Now, especially those of you who are involved in finance. Mr. Bernanke was told exactly what to say. He did not slip up and say something he wasn't supposed to. He said exactly what the elite wanted him to say on Wednesday afternoon, and they were sitting back in their offices all day long on Thursday and Thursday night and Friday, watching like a hawk or like an eagle to see what the markets would do, because they were doing what is called a test run to see what will happen. They wanted to see if that money, you see, the world's operating right now on Federal Reserve money. QE1, quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, quantitative easing 3. The banking system, the world, is literally running on giveaway money that is pulled out of thin air by the Federal Reserve, and they wanted to see if a little bit of that money was not printed next month, like it has been for about the last year. They wanted to know what would happen to the markets. Let me try to explain a test run, if I may. And by the way, Aurora and Bill, I know I'm getting into some very technical things in relation to banking tonight. If at any point you feel that I'm not quite explaining this enough that the average layman could pick up on it, just break in, if you will, please, because there are a lot more that this gentleman said to me, and I want to make sure that I get it across so people can understand it. So let me explain, if I may, a test run. Let's say Boeing Aircraft produces a new model of airplane. And as soon as the first prototype comes off the assembly line, do they fill it with passengers, sell it to an airline, and fly it around the world? Not on your life. They put a test pilot in that airplane, and they put a whole lot of dummies in there instead of human beings. And they test it, and they fly it, and they test it over and over and over until they work all of the bad things out of it. And then, after many, many, many hours of test run, they will sell it to an airline and fly passengers in it. Now, that is exactly what the elite of the world did on Wednesday afternoon, June the 19th. Mr. Bernanke was told to say something, and he hinted that they might withdraw the printing of some of these funds. They wanted to see what would happen. This was a test run. This was not done by accident. And my elite friend the next morning told me exactly what they were doing. And they watched it, and it did what they thought it would. It did. Do you realize that this is almost exactly what happened in 2008 when we had the global financial crisis, the last one that has happened? Now, there's a reason why they wanted to do this. They wanted to do this in order to find out how. Are you ready now? Please. Keep in mind that these people contacted me in order to warn me. These two emails were more of a warning to me and to my family than any other one thing. Whether he actually thought I'd give this out to the world or not, I'm not quite sure. But he hasn't called to say anything to me, and I've done a number of radio shows this week. They did a test run to find out how they could bring all of the currencies of the world to a complete collapse at one time. Did you catch this? This was a test. It was a test run. They were sitting back watching, and they wanted to find out what method they could use to do it. Now, let me pause here long enough to give you two things that I have said right here on this show in the past, and I want you to remember them if you can. About a year ago, we were on the verge of a financial crisis, and I happened to be talking with my elite friend, and it was made known to me that it will be approximately a year and a half that I have nothing to worry about. Did you catch this? Approximately a year ago, it was said to me, Chaplain, you don't have a thing to worry about. There's not going to be any financial collapse for at least a year and a half. Now, that doesn't mean that they will always hold through that to the date, and don't you dare go and say I've set any dates, because I haven't. I've set no dates at all. It may be a year and a half from now. It may be 6 months from now. Maybe 2 years from now. But basically they said to me, for my own welfare, Chaplain, for about the next year and a half, you don't have anything to worry about in a bank closure, in a devaluation of the currency, or a revaluation of the currency. You don't have anything to worry about a major financial collapse for probably a year and a half. Well, at that time, many financial newsletters were saying, oh, we're going to have an October surprise. We're going to have a bank closure 1st of January. Watch out after the first of the year. And I went on radio shows all across America. And I said, folks, there is not going to be a financial problem during January, February, March. There's not going to be a financial problem in October, November, December. And it wasn't.
Are we speaking about 2012 or 2013?
We're talking about 2013, this year.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's go back 1 year approximately from right now. Is when they said to me, Chaplain, you don't have a thing to be concerned about for at least a year and a half. So that means we've got 6 more months yet before they basically warned me, you better have everything done and everything in place. But we've already gone by 1 year, and I go out there and stick my neck out and say, we're not going to have a financial collapse in the next 3 months.
Lindsey?
It was quite contrary to what some of the talk show hosts were saying. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. You said a year and a half, and that started when?
Approximately a year ago is when this statement was made to me that you've got a year and a half. So we've gone by a year.
Okay, so that was in the middle of 2012.
Approximately.
Right?
And about that time, I did a DVD series, and I stated it on DVD so that it could never be mistaken. If we had a financial collapse before then, all of my predictions, I could basically chalk it up and go home and close doors, because people would say, Chaplain, you finally made a wrong prediction. But based on the prediction that these people were giving me, I said, we don't have anything to be concerned. You'd better set that house in order, because it is going to happen. Now, they have gotten to the place now where they are testing to see how they can do it. Now, there's a second thing that I was told about 2.5 years ago. And I said it right here on your program, Aurora and Bill. And it's in your archives, so nobody can ever say I didn't say it. Back about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I was talking with one of these individuals, and he said, Chaplain, do you know how the currencies of the world will be brought down? Now, folks, I put this in my DVD series entitled The Next 4 Years and How to Survive the Next 4 Years. You can never say that it wasn't said. And I said it here on this program and many other programs. My elite friend had said to me, Chaplain, do you know how we're going to bring all of the currencies down at the same time? Did you understand this word all? Not just America, not just Canada, not only the euro. I'm talking about China and India and Japan, every single currency in the world. They have long since bypassed a regional currency. They've gotten to the place now that they want to go directly to a new world order, one world currency, and I was told back about 1.5 years, 2 years ago how they would do it. And at the time, they said to me the following. I'll just briefly recap this, and then I'll go on with the email that was sent to me. They said to me, Chaplain, don't pay any attention to Wall Street. Well, if you had watched Wall Street that week of June the 20th, it fell by approximately 1,000 points, and you would have literally been at your wit's end if you had been watching Wall Street. I didn't even flinch. Of course, I don't have anything in Wall Street. Long since, if I had, I would have taken it out. The elite have gotten out of it a long time ago, and it's nothing but the average person on the street that they've conned into getting into it now. And if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. So they had said to me, Chaplain, we're going to use a derivative market to bring the currencies of the world down. They said, don't pay any attention to the euro. Watch the derivative market. Now, do you have the slightest idea what derivatives are? If you don't, I plead with you to either get my DVD series, the next 12 months, the next 4 years, and how to survive the next 4 years, or do a crash course on the Internet on derivatives. You've got to know what derivatives are. The derivative market is, for all practical purposes, if I could put it in everyday terms, it is a glorified, super wealthy, multi-trillion-dollar gambling casino. That's right. That's exactly what it is. The super wealthy of the world, the wealthy nations of the world, and the banks of the world play the derivative market every single night while you're sleeping. What is it? It's a bet. They bet on everything. They bet on the weather. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's say that if a very wealthy person who's got millions and millions and millions. Keep in mind, some of those people I rubbed shoulders with years ago, they could have written a check for $1 million a day for the rest of their life and never spent their fortunes. There are people like this. Now, let's say that one of those super wealthy decides he wants to play the gambling casino called derivatives tonight. He contacts another one of his gambling friends, his super wealthy, who would like to do the same thing, and says, I'll make you a bet. Well, he said, what would you like to bet today? $1 million overnight just for the fun of it. He said, I bet you that the 10-year bond yield that the Federal Reserve is going to issue tomorrow will be 2.5%. That's interest rate on the bonds that they sell to monetize the national debt. And they love betting on this sort of thing. Now, that rate very seldom ever varies. It will vary maybe a point or two, and that's it. But it usually stays about 2.5. And so the other gentleman says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll bet you $1 million it's going to be 2.51. I mean, just that little bit, they would do it. Or maybe he would be real bold and say 2.6. That it would be a near impossibility because it scares the world, scares the whole financial world to death. So he said, okay, good, let's do that. Well, they wait until the next day. Now, they don't use their own money. They know that they can go to this 7-day repo benchmark rate funding between banks. They know they can get it at 3.3%. And at $1 million, oh, sure, they can risk 3.3%, very little amount. And so both of them probably go and borrow the money there. And the next day, they come up and say, well, one won, one lost, one's $1 million richer. And this is the way that the derivative market works. And my elite friend said to me, Chaplain, the derivative market has existed now for about 40 years. There is no controls on the derivative market, not a single law. Congress has tried many times to pass a law regulating the derivative market. Every time they do, the elite pay off the congressman. Oh, come on. Bear with me now. You know, I have been in touch with some of these people for these 37, 38 years. I have actually had them to laugh at congressmen. That's right. They think that they have got to be the lowest class bunch of scum in all the world. One said to me one day, he said, Chaplain, we just buy them off anytime we get ready to. I mean, there's no such thing as a bill that they can't get passed through Congress. They know exactly what they're going to do. And they laugh at Congress. And, you know, it's so ridiculous how all this is carried on out there in this world of finance. And so he said to me, he said, we're going to use the derivative market. Well, about 30 or 35 years ago, they developed it, maybe 40 years ago. And now the derivative market has gotten to the point that it is estimated that the worldwide derivative market on any given day today is approximately $2 quadrillion. Did you catch that? I can't comprehend it. I can't even imagine it. But it is approximately $2 quadrillion. And I said, well, how are you going to bring down the derivative market? I'll give it to you very quickly. He said, Chaplain, number one, currency wars are going to begin. And he said, whenever they escalate, it'll cause trade wars to begin. And he said, Chaplain, anytime you see trade wars really beginning to get big around the world, he said, watch out. You're getting close to the time that we are ready to bring down all of the currencies of the world at one time. Now, you have heard a lot recently about currency wars, and you've heard a lot about trade wars. I don't have to go into those. You've actually heard those in the national news. And then he told me, he said, Chaplain, the day that interest rates, are you catching this now? This is very important related to these two emails that were sent to me. He said, Chaplain, the day that interest rates begin to rise, he said, you better watch out. Now, Mr. Bernanke, on Wednesday night, June the 19th, or Wednesday afternoon, he did not say that interest rates were going to rise. He hinted that the Federal Reserve might not print so much money next month, but the financial wizards of the world knew that this would cause interest rate change, and it, just his hint, sent the entire financial market into a spasm. And it happened on Thursday and Friday, and they were sitting back watching it. Now, I will tell you this positively, as it was told to me. They said, Chaplain, the moment that Bernanke, or whoever the Federal Reserve Chairman may be, the moment that he announces that interest rates are going to rise, he said, Chaplain, anything that you've got in paper, you just lost it. He said, it's too late. You can't do anything about it then. He said, if you don't do something about it before then, he said, you've lost it as of that day. Now, for all practical purposes, those interest rates began to rise back here about a week and a half ago when Mr. Bernanke made the statement that he did, even though he has not announced anything yet. They did a test run to find out what would happen, and they found out exactly how to collapse the derivative market on any given day. Now, I want to give you some facts and figures. You go to the Internet and listen to this yourself. You could not have understood the background unless I had given you what I just gave you first before I gave you these. Now go on the Internet and prove this for yourself, those of you who are really financially savvy. Here we go. There are, right now, by the way, these figures came from the Bank of International Settlements. You do know that that is the most elite of all of the banks or the settlement houses in the world. This statement was made a week ago by the Bank of International Settlements. Quote, there are more than $441 trillion worth of interest rate derivatives. Did you catch that? I have trouble even comprehending this. 441 trillion. Our national debt's only 17 trillion. But listen, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the derivative market, which is a gambling casino of the rich. There's 440. Now, go back and look at the Bank of International Settlements. Go and Google this, please, and prove this for yourself. $441 trillion worth of interest rate derivatives. Let me explain an interest rate derivative. An interest rate derivative is what that super wealthy person did with the other super wealthy person that night that I gave you an example of a moment ago. They will bet nightly, day after day. They bet on where interest rates are going. And one wins and another loses. And banks play this game. The super wealthy play the game. China plays the game. The Federal Reserve plays the game. And the other day, on that Thursday, June the 20th, when those interest rates begin to rise, keep in mind, $441 trillion worth of interest rate derivatives. That doesn't even count those who bet on the weather and those who count on what Congress is going to do and those who count on where the euro and China is going. That's something else in the derivative market altogether. Interest rate derivatives alone are $441 trillion. And when those interest rates began to rise on June the 20th and the 21st and surged from 3.3% to 12.33%, my phone started ringing. And people were calling me, Chaplain, there's going to be a financial collapse on Monday morning if this continues. And there would have been, let me assure you, on that Monday morning after that was done on Thursday, June the 20th, if this trend had continued, you would have seen a collapse of the derivative market and you would have seen a collapse of all the currencies in the world by Monday morning. But after talking with my insider friend, everybody who called me on the phone, I said, please calm down. You have nothing to worry about. I said, this was a test. I said, they have no intentions in allowing the financial market to collapse yet. I'm going to really stick my neck out. You ready? I want to give you some hope. there's not going to be any financial collapse of the markets of the world for the next 3 months. Did you catch that? Now, I'm risking my reputation of 37 years. There is not going to be a financial collapse for the next 3 months. The elite are not ready for it to happen. It'll probably be at least 6 months before it happens, maybe a year, but I wouldn't take a chance on it after 6 months. But they're not ready for it yet. They don't have everything in place yet. But they know now how to do it because they've done a test run. And they know how to bring the derivative market down by using nothing but interest rate derivatives. Now, may I give you the next figure that will stagger you? This came out, let's see, it was after Monday morning, and I knew that nothing was going to happen on Monday morning. And sure enough, stock market started going back up again. It went 100 and something points up on that Monday morning. They had made that test. I mean, folks, are you getting this is such a play game out here that the whole world is playing, that the super wealthy are playing. Do you realize that they were playing with you, playing with the Federal Reserve, playing with the national debt? They had tested their case, and they knew what to do. And so by Monday morning, they calmed all the markets down, and everything was fine on Wall Street. And now for this past week, everything is going along very nicely. But they have already made their test. Now I want to show you what the results was. Just because of the hint of Mr. Bernanke, just the hint. I got this on, let's see, today is Sunday. I got this on Friday afternoon. They finally, after 1 week, came out with it. Just a hint on Wednesday night. And then the trial, and then the markets went crazy. You ready? Please write this down. The derivative markets, as a result of the past 7 days, suffered. Why? Just because of their test. I mean, literally people have lost fortunes out there in the last week. I want to give you the figure. In 1 week's time, after Mr. Bernanke's hint, the derivative market suffered a staggering $300 trillion in losses. Did you catch that? They've already tallied it. They know where it is. I want to tell you how much the Federal Reserve lost. Oh, yeah. Your
That's
taxpayer
amazing.
money. Bonds. Now, you can prove this, folks. This is not hearsay. I'm not out here just talking off the top of my head. You go to the Internet and prove this for yourself. And my elite friend kept giving me this information. The Federal Reserve lost in bond values. Oh, please, people, you've got to understand. Those bonds are sold by the Federal Reserve every day to the super wealthy in the nations of the world in order to pay the interest on the national debt of the United States of America. And those bonds pretty much pretty close to every day are issued at 2.5%. But those bonds, because of that little glitch that Mr. Bernanke talked about, went up to 2.63. And the whole world was scared to death. Why? Because the Federal Reserve lost on bond values. Are you ready? Taxpayers, you are responsible for this. The Federal Reserve lost $151 billion in 1 week's time. $151 billion. Have you heard the national news talk about that? No, because the elite control the liberal media, and they wouldn't dare let it out that the Federal Reserve lost taxpayers' money to the tune of $151 billion in bond values alone just because of a test that the elite made.
That's an incredible story. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Well, we're going to be back here after this short break with Lindsey Williams. We're going to talk about this test that was done and the ramifications down the line here. Also, we had an article that we pulled up at the end of March talking about that they were going to stop buying up these mortgages. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that too. We'll be right back after this short message. Stay with us. You're listening to VNN, and I'm Aurora Light here with Dr. Whodini and our special guest tonight, Lindsey Williams.
Welcome to the Progressive Technology Hour, and I am your host for this hour, Dr. Whodini. And joining me in the studio is the one and only Aurora Light. Welcome aboard, Aurora.
Thank you.
Well, folks, our guest this evening is Pastor Lindsey Williams. Of course, he has this startling report here about the derivatives market, the bubble, really, and how they want to collapse this bubble through interest rate derivatives.
Well, first of all, they had to set up something that was vulnerable to collapse.
Right.
And
so
then
they did a
have
test
everybody
run.
Put their eggs in this rocky basket, this weak basket that they can easily, disrupt the flow whenever they so desire.
Well, the derivatives market, that's what brought down that's what brought about the Great Depression.
Right.
Back in 29.
And then it was outlawed after.
And then it was outlawed, folks.
Yeah.
And then it didn't really make a comeback until the Reagan era. And Greenspan stepped in there and changed all the rules and brought back the this high stakes game. These derivatives, it's nothing more than an insurance policy, on bets. They're basically making bets. And then you can't really lose in a situation like that, because if you play the derivatives on those bets, if it goes up, you win. If it goes down, you win. Don't you like to have a guarantee like that?
Yeah, I love that.
And of course, they rack up trillions and trillions and trillions to the tune of, what did Lindsey say, 2 quadrillion? Folks, do you know how big $2 quadrillion, how big that number is? It's insanely huge. Insanely huge.
Yet we don't hear anything about it.
No. And, mainstream media, I don't think they can count up to 100, right? Can they count past that? Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get Lindsey back on with us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to bring Lindsey back here in about another minute here.
Okay.
I just want to touch on some stories, that Lindsey alluded to here. And, of course, the Federal Reserve eyes the end of the bond buying markets here, which really spooked the markets. He mentioned that they're going to stop buying this $85 billion a month bond buying program, and they're talking about stopping it in mid-2014. So, folks, are we seeing a correlation here between what Lindsey is saying about collapsing the world currencies? When? In about 6 months? 6 months to a year. That's the time frame we're looking at in 2014.
Gosh, just in time for my birthday, St. Patrick's Day.
Now, there's a whole wrinkle, Aurora, in this mix. And, of course, we talk about UFOs. We talk about UFOs quite a bit on this show. And there's some news coming out of Iran. Did you know, folks, that they're expecting, and this is getting a lot of play over there. It's not getting any play over here. But over there in Iran, this is huge talk, huge conversation about the coming of the Mahdi. All right? Their Messiah is coming here, folks. And they seem to think that it's tied to the Syrian event. What's going on in Syria today? And, of course, they're lining up all their ducks there, folks, on the Russian side and on the U.S. side. And the battleground, to me, is Damascus. Of course, in the Bible, talks about the coming destruction, complete destruction of Damascus. And Iran seems to think here, well, according to this article, it says a high Iranian politician believes the Syrian revolution could be the catalyst for sparking a worldwide conflagration that will usher in the era of the Muslim domination of the world. That's awesome. One can smell from the crisis in Syria the coming of the end of times and the coming of the last Islamic Messiah, said this member of the Islamic regime parliament. Previously, he was deputy of intelligence ministry and the member of the board of trustees of the Islamic Revolution Document Center. So, folks, you know, they're looking at this issue with Damascus as grounds for the coming of this Messiah, of the Antichrist. And of course, I've been hearing from other sources that they're going to be kind of it'll be somewhat of a rude awakening, that not when their Messiah shows up, but the Antichrist shows up. And of course, this Antichrist really isn't connected to the Iranian, to the Muslim Messiah. It's connected to the Jewish Messiah. Okay? So, this could be a wrinkle. I mean, it's been prophesied now for over 700 years that this Messiah will come this year. So we're expecting a huge Damascus crisis here, which will usher in this Antichrist, will make his appearance. That could be the curveball thrown into the mix here with this whole currency crisis and how they're going to deal with this coming of this Antichrist. So, folks, let's get back to Lindsey here. And Lindsey, are you with us?
I'm right here, and you're exactly right in what you're saying, and I think it very well could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking at a 700-year-old prophecy that states, you know, the coming of this Jewish Messiah this year. And it could be very well connected with this Damascus crisis that's happening here. And all the ducks are being lined up there. You know, it's like Damascus is this battleground. So, you know, we'll see over the next few months here how this is all going to play out. Go ahead, Lindsey. You have the floor.
People have a glorious window of opportunity right now. Everyone out there in your listening audience tonight, please let me try to express to you, in light of what my insider friends have told me, you right now have one of the most glorious windows of opportunity that you can imagine of. The American dollar is still fairly strong. Interest rates are reasonably stable. They have already made that test. You're probably not going to see anything phenomenal for another 6 months. I wouldn't take a chance on it, though, because they can change that if they want to. They've made that test run now, and they know what to do. You have a wonderful opportunity right now to take what currency you have while it still has purchasing power and do what it is that you need to do for your family in preparing for the inevitable. It is going to take place, let me say that. Positively, there is going to be a worldwide financial collapse of currencies. Someone called in on a radio show the other day. It was a call-in show after I'd given some of this, and someone called in, and they said, well, now, Chaplain Williams, this is going to affect America more than any other nation in the world, isn't it? And I said, no. They were calling from Canada, by the way. I said, Canada is going to be just as hard hit as America is. And I said, and then said, well, surely then China, do the elite control China and India and Japan? I said, the elite control China just as much as they do the United States of America. Let me give you an example. On that Thursday, June the 20th, when those interest rates begin to go crazy. Now think about it. Go back and look this up on the internet for yourself. China announced that its ICBC Bank had run out of liquidity. Now, let me try to explain that word liquidity. It doesn't mean that they went bankrupt. It merely means that they ran out of working funds. They gave out of money to be able to work with. Well, naturally they would. That interrate bank had gone from 3.3 to 12.3, and that Chinese bank couldn't do business with anybody else in the world. China had to come to the rescue of the ICBC bank in order to give it some liquidity, because they couldn't go and use that benchmark funding rate between banks because it had gone wild over the weekend. Now, since you have those pencils and paper handy now, please, I hope that you will go to lindseywilliams.net. Go on the internet, please, to my website. Lindsey, Lindsey, Williams.net. Please print out the 2 emails that were sent to me by my insider friend. They're right there for you. It won't cost you a penny. This is a free website. Please go and print those out, and I'll make you a promise. I'll make it now, and then I'll go into this other. Anytime that my elite friend sends me something that I feel is pertinent to the welfare of your family, I will post it on lindseywilliams.net. Now, that doesn't mean that I get something posted there every day. This is not the type of website. This is a website that tells you where you can go to listen to me if you want to hear me on the radio. Your program right now, tonight, Aurora and Bill, your program is posted tonight on lindseywilliams.net. We had thousands of hits on our website today. You very easily could have people listening right now to your program because it was posted up there. And any time that I get a bulletin from one of these people, I will post it. It doesn't mean it will be tomorrow, maybe a week, maybe a month, but I'll post it, and it could be vital. I'll also make you another promise. I have been fairly well assured by these people that I will know at least a few weeks, maybe a few months, before they decide to collapse the currencies of the world. Now, I hope you caught that. They will. They'll know a date. And I think out of respect for the fact that I gave 3 years of my life to be their chaplain, I think they will let me know. I've been fairly well assured that I will. I'll make you a promise. Whenever I find out what that date's going to be, I will tell you. I won't just sit back here and let you suffer. I will tell you. Now, that is really sticking my neck out a long ways. But when they tell me when they plan to do what they just made a test run on, I'll post it on lindseywilliams.net. I will send to Aurora and Bill an email. Now, it may be something that you might not be able to wait a week to put me on the air, but I will try my best to tell you exactly what's going to be happening. Now, I want you to write down the following. You've had plenty of warning. You've gone to
we do 2
LindseyWilliams.net.
shows a week now, so we do Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, so we always try to get you on as quickly as we can. And, all right, all of you out there, I'm sure your pen is poised, and we're ready to roll here. Lindsey, what should people do to get their acts together here, and what are some of the suggestions?
Well, let me give just a few items, and then it will bring me right up to that point, because that comes down to where we need to go. That same week of June the 20th, the elite were preparing other things. Write this down. First of all, Congress passed a farm bill that week. I hope you realize the significance of this. Every dairy product in your home, because of that farm bill, will double in price as of January the 1st, 2014. I hope you caught that. Congress passed a farm bill. It was done intentionally. Okay, secondly, that same week of June the 20th, when they did this test run, Congress passed another bill. Please look this one up. Mortgage Debt Release Act. Oh, my goodness, how it's going to affect you. Do you know that there will be no more short sales in real estate after January the 1st, 2014? Because of the bill that was passed by Congress that week, that every bit of this is leading up to approximately 6 months from now. Are you catching this? I hope you're beginning to, you're using your head now and you've got the figures going. That Mortgage Debt Release Act makes it almost impossible for a person to have a short sale on a house. And do you realize that nearly all houses today that are transferred are done by way of short sale? It is going to utterly decimate the housing market. That same week of June the 20th, when they did this test run, for all practical purposes, the President of the United States of America fired Mr. Bernanke. And I know now. Let me try to put it in words that you can understand. You remember it. You heard it on the national news. It was all over. They didn't hide this from you. The President of the United States of America came out and said, well, Mr. Bernanke thinks now that he has probably been of as much service as he can in the Federal Reserve, and as of January the 1st, he will probably be retiring. Do you realize that Mr. Bernanke had nothing to do with that whatsoever? The President of the United States of America fired Mr. Bernanke as of January the 1st. You watch it now. There's another thing that you're going to face January the 1st of 2014. You realize every bit of this is 6 months from now? January the 1st, 2014, the health care bill comes into effect. I must go back 4 years ago to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ken Fromm. He was senior executive with Atlantic Richfield. He was at the very top. He knew everything that went on behind closed doors, and he and I were on a phone call together one day. I related this right here on your program at one time, I think months ago, and Mr. Fromm said to me, he said, we were talking about something about health, and he said, you do know that a health care bill, it's 4 years ago now, and it's in the archives of my DVDs also, so you can't say I didn't say it, and he didn't say it. He said, we're going to have a health care bill presented before Congress. They knew it. They wrote it. The elite wrote it. Congress didn't have anything to do with this. Neither did the president. The elite wrote it. And he told me about it months before it ever happened. He said, there's going to be a health care bill presented before Congress, and he said, I said, well, what do you think about it? He said, Chaplain, this is not a health care bill. Did you catch this? Please, people. He said, this is one of them. This is not a health care bill. I said, what do you mean this is not a health care bill? He said, Chaplain, this is the final and ultimate control of the American people. He said, first of all, there was the Patriot Act. And he said, now the health care bill. And he said, once this is passed, and you realize that your insurance is not going to be a premium. This is going to be a tax as of the first day of January of 2014.
I think we're the only people to have a tax on whether or not you have an income.
A health care bill, oh, people, please. Doctors are quitting by the thousands. Have you caught this? Your family doctor is probably going to quit. You've got to know something. Please go one place for me. Please, just take the time to do it after the program tonight. I want you to go on YouTube. Won't cost you a penny. You can look this one up. Go to YouTube and put in David Janda, D-A-V-I-D, J-A-N-D-A, on YouTube, and please, I beg of you to watch his DVD. David Janda is such a prominent physician in the Midwest until he was actually asked to speak before Congress on what he thought about the health care bill. David Janda and I have become fairly close friends. I've been on his radio show numbers of times. He has a radio show. And David said to me one day on the phone, he said, Chaplain, by January the 1st of 2014, 40% of the healthcare professionals in America will have left the healthcare field. I said, David, wait a minute. He said, yes, 40% of the nurses, 40% of the doctors, those who are ready for retirement are getting out as fast as they can. David Janda is only in the midst of his career. He is a very wealthy, well-to-do, respected physician, and David Janda has already given the day of his quitting. He will not remain in as a doctor under Obamacare or health care bill, whichever you'd like to call it. He has already sold his office building and given a date for the date that he'll no longer see his patients. Doctors by the thousands are quitting across America. Do you realize that you will not have health care as you know it today after January the 1st of 2014? Many of the foreign, you know how many foreign doctors are in America? Have you tried to look up a doctor lately and see how many of them look like they're from India or China or Japan or someplace else? Do you realize many of the doctors are that? You know what they're going to do? They can't make a living under Obamacare. They can't make a living under the health care bill. They're going back to their own country. Thousands of them will be leaving. And other doctors are just saying we're quitting. And those who are already retirement age are retiring. And the new ones, they know they can't make a living at it. You know who you're going to have left out there? The scum of the earth. The ones that couldn't make it any other way anyway, and so they will sneak by. And that's the kind of quality you're going to have in the healthcare system after January the 1st of 2014.
You know what, Lindsey? A lot of us out there have avoided the healthcare system. like myself and turn to alternative holistic approaches as much as possible. Yeah, I'm not saying if you break a leg that you don't need it set by a professional, but a lot of us have avoided mainstream medicine because we find it corrupt, and we find the pharmaceutical industry dastardly and corrupt.
Well, it's appalling.
And, all the people that they're killing, they kill more people in hospitals than anywhere else. So, I mean, it's to be avoided. We've talked about going down to clinics in Mexico and your stance on that. And, I haven't done a show on that yet for our listeners, but I will do one in the future. But let us say that, that the holistic field is going to gain momentum here in the coming time as people are looking for alternative ways to stay healthy and are going to avoid the old protocols that we used to be in place. Do you agree with that, Lindsey?
Aurora, I could not have put it in any better way than what you just put it, so I decided to do something about it. No, I've never done this before. In 37 years, I have been fearful of doing this. Now, I knew where the elite go when they get sick. I knew exactly where these people, I knew what they used. Let me give you an example, and then I'll tell you exactly what I did. Kevin Gallagher is a radio talk show host back on the East Coast in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. He knows where the home of Henry Kissinger is. And from periodically, he is a radio talk show host, and some of his friends will picket Henry Kissinger's house. Kevin was on the phone with me the other day prior to a show, and he told me the following story. They were out picketing Mr. Henry Kissinger's house. Now, do you know of course, I'm sure you recognize it, Henry Kissinger and Daddy Bush, George Herbert W. Bush, is the epitome of the New World Order. George Bush was the one that announced it many years ago, the New World Order. And Henry Kissinger is the very top, in the very top core of that probably dozen of the elite. Now, they were picketing Mr. Henry Kissinger's house. He's 90 years of age this year, 90 years of age. And he didn't know they were there. And he drove up in his driveway in his car. And when he saw that there were a group of picketers out there, he didn't like the idea at all. So he jumped out of his automobile, ran across the front yard, and up the steps of the house at 90 years of age. You realize that Daddy Bush loves to skydive. And he's 89 years of age. How is it that these people are so healthy? Well, when I knew the elite many, many years ago, over the years, they have told me their secrets. My wife has been saved by it. No, literally. I was so sick I thought I was going to die not too long ago. And my elite friend had told me where to go, and I went outside the United States of America, came back perfectly healthy. Now I'm feeling fine today at 77 years of age, still don't wear glasses. And I can read the fine print in the telephone directory. The elite have given me their secrets over the years, but I was afraid to tell them because some of it is so questionable by the certain administrations in America. I did it. That's right. This past week, on the 26th, 5 days ago, I came out with it. I could not stand by any longer. I came out with a DVD series just 4 days ago. The first ones were sent out. The secrets of the elite, where they go when they get sick, what they use, and I call it healing the elite way. Now, I hope you caught that, healing the elite way. Do you know that President Ronald Reagan, when he was President of the United States of America, was diagnosed with colon cancer? He brought from Europe something that was illegal to be sold in the United States of America. They'd used it in Europe for some time and perfected it. He brought it into America and used it. It was just a liquid, a substance. He brought it in, used it, never had a reoccurrence of his colon cancer. Now, I tell their secrets in an hour and 46-minute DVD entitled Healing the elite way. There are certain things that you positively, now I'm getting around to answer your question of a few moments ago, Aurora. You thought I was avoiding you, but I wasn't. I just had to tell those things in order to get you around to this point. You positively must put certain things into the medicine cabinet of your house, natural substances, not chemicals, none of them are chemicals, natural substances. You positively must get them into your medicine cabinet before January the 1st of 2014, and I will tell you what they are. I will give you the secrets of the elite and some of their healing secrets that you will find utterly amazing. I have used some of these things myself. I have gone to their place where they go. I have gone where my elite friend, after he was diagnosed with having lung and liver cancer, and he went to a certain place and within 21 days came back and was examined, and the doctors said, this is a miracle. We've never seen it happen this way. We can't even find a sign of cancer in you. He's now in his 70s, still flies his own airplane, in perfect health, and still alive and well, and that was over 20 years ago. The elite know what to do. Have you ever thought about the fact that not a single president of the United States of America has ever died of cancer? What is it that the president knows that you don't know? What is it that the elite know that you don't know? Well, I finally decided after 37 years I had to tell it, and I stuck my neck out and did. You'll find it on LindseyWilliams.net. Please go there. It's just under those emails that you want to print out, and you can click there and order Healing the Elite Way. Let me also give you a phone number just in case you don't like to use the Internet. If you'd like to, during office hours on Monday, please call toll-free 1-888-799-6111. Again, toll-free, and you'll talk to an American operator, by the way, 888-799-6111, or if you wish, go to LindseyWilliams.net, print out the two emails that my insider friend sent me, go down and click on the two DVDs that are there. One is entitled Healing the Elite Way, another one, a series that was produced 2 months ago entitled New Signs the Elite Have Given Me. You must know what they told me 2 months ago that they were going to begin doing, and they gave me the signs that I could protect my own family, and I'm trying to help you. Now, let me give you a few of those signs. Number one, health. There is definitely going to be a health crisis come the first day of January 2014. You must put certain things into your medicine cabinet. As Aurora said a moment ago, yes, when you get a broken bone, you've got to have a doctor to set it. But there are a lot of things that you're going to take a chance if you even go there to try to get help from a doctor's office and from the hospital. Secondly, you positively must get everything you've got into tangibles. You've got to get out of paper of every kind. I was warned of this. My elite friend told me, he said, Chaplain, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. I'll never forget today. I was on the phone, and someone asked me the question. They said, how much money do you have in your checking account? Well, I wasn't about to answer that over the telephone, the way telephones are bugged now. And they noticed I wasn't going to answer the question, so they said, okay, let me rephrase that. Can you afford to lose what you have in your checking account? And I said, no, not all your life. They said, well, Chaplain, you better get it out then. They said, we don't have anything in paper that we can't afford to lose. Did you catch that? Oh, yeah, they have a few stocks, they have a few bonds, they have a few T-bills, but they don't have any more than what they can afford to lose because they know that they might lose them. So as a result, they've all gotten into tangibles. Now, what is a tangible? A tangible does not have to be gold and silver. A tangible can be a paid-for roof over your head. A tangible can be a plot of ground in the backyard that's paid for that you can grow a garden on. A tangible can be gold and silver, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. A good supply of food and water in your house that will take care of you for a few weeks whenever all this happens until things blow over a little bit would be a very wise tangible for every person. And I take it into consideration that you've already done that. I mean, I just consider that anyone who would listen to Aurora and Bill on any given day, I'm sure that you have already been told that you need to do something about food and water for your household, but get out a paper of every kind. 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds, every single one of them. You must take precautions. And the elite have already gotten out. They've gotten out of Wall Street already. They've gotten out of paper. Now, there are some other things that you possibly can do. I'm sure you've heard it right here from Aurora and Bill. But you have such a glorious window of opportunity right now, because the dollar still has a certain amount of purchasing power that you can go and do what you want to do with. You need to definitely consider. Sit down and think about it. Don't worry over this. Let me warn you about this. Don't you dare let what I have said tonight worry you. You know what worry does to the human brain? It shuts it down. You cannot think clearly when you worry. You don't lose sleep over this. Don't you dare do it. Don't look behind bushes and for black helicopters. That won't do you one bit of good. You've got to not worry about this, but instead consider the facts. Look at your household. Do what you have to do. Take the precautions necessary, and you'll sleep well at night. There were many, many people at the time of the Great Depression in 1929 through 1933 who made great fortunes. I hope you caught that. Not everyone stood in a soup line. There were many people who knew in advance it was going to happen. Now you know in advance it's going to happen. You've got the message now. And if you haven't gotten it from me, go print out those 2 emails and list the other materials. You find it on the Internet, what's being said to you. You go to any financial newsletter, they're all saying that everybody's in trouble. They just don't know what the date is. Now, you can take precautions right now so that you don't have to lose sleep over this at night and worry over it. Now, let me give you what the elite have set into order since January the 1st, and this will help you to know what you need to do too. This was the second email that was sent to me by my insider friend. You'll find it at this free website, won't cost you a penny, lindseywilliams.net. Please print them out, these 2 emails, right at the front of the top, at the top of the front page. Now, let me read you the second one. Quote, the U.S. market has declined over the past month. Well, that's nothing new. Everybody, you've gone to the grocery store lately. You know where prices have gone, and you also realize where the markets have gone. Nearly every pension fund in the world is underfunded. There was not, I heard this, by the way, from a person who is in mutual funds. They're a financier, not a financier, but in the finance world, live not too far from where I live. And they said to me the other day, they said not one single penny was made by any mutual fund last month. I don't know where they got the figure from, but you know that the markets have declined. Okay, let me go to the next one. The Japanese stock market has dropped 20%. 20% just recently. Okay, the U.S. bond market has sold off. Oh, do you realize that cities can't sell bonds right now? You can try to sell a bond if you have anything to do with city government. They can't sell bonds to build a new water plant. They can't sell bonds to build an arena. Bond market has literally fallen out of bed. It's terrible. I don't know how any city, any school board, or any school or any municipality, I don't know how they're going to get along, because they sell bonds. People buy the bonds believing the city will pay back the money, or the school district will pay back the money to build the schools and everything else. You can't sell a bond right now. Let me give you the next one. Gold. If you have much in the way of gold, you know what has happened. It went down from $1,900 all the way down to $1,200. Listen to the figure. Gold has been 20% down year to date. How about China? Oh, this one he sent to me. I want to tell you again, China is just as much controlled by the elite as America is. The China stock market, the FXI, has fallen 19.69% since January the 1st. And they're the second largest economy in the world, and Japan's the third. But people aren't buying from them anymore, and China is in worse trouble than America is today. You think our $17 trillion-dollar national debt is big. You haven't seen anything compared to China. China's in big trouble right now. Again, the emerging markets of the world, this is the third world countries that are becoming of age. The emerging markets as a whole have depreciated by 11.3% in the last 30 days. Now, I want to give you a secret. I didn't know this until this past week when he sent me this, and then when I got on the telephone and he explained it to me. Do you know what the elite, I'm going to tell you what the elite use as their premier asset. I'm reading the exact words that he sent to me. The premier asset that they consider as an indicator of growth and contraction. You know what it is? No, it's not gold. I would have thought it was. It's not silver. I would have thought that also. You know what the premier asset is that the elite watch to give an indication of whether things are growing or contracting? You ready? And I hope you'll start watching it from now on. Copper. That's right. What old penny used to be made out of. Copper is what they watch. Not gold, not silver, not the New York stock market, not the euro. They watch copper. They have found out that it is the premier asset. Look what copper has done. Copper has contracted 18% since January the 1st. Now, they know that the entire world economies are contracting, and they also know that this is affecting the derivative market, and they know after that test last week exactly where they can take the derivative market when they are ready to bring in a collapse of all of the currencies of the world and get ready to bring in their new currency, which will be backed by gold and silver, and they are going to do it. I think that you have approximately 6 months. I don't know how long you have.
Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing all this with us tonight. It's really been a pleasure having you on, having you share with us your insights and your direct connections that you've shared with so many of us for so long. Kept us, on our toes here, awake and aware. That's what it's all about on VNN. And those of you out there who have heard Lindsey speaking this evening, go ahead, go over there to his website and pick yourself up a video so you can find out more information. He's got a whole series of them, and I've watched them all, and I really have enjoyed them and learned a lot, and I hope you do tonight. Hope you have tonight learned a lot. Lindsey, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for allowing me the privilege, and Lord bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend.